Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 15 of 30 Facebook Lives here at Magic of Psalm. Today, I am talking about resources and tips for trauma survivors. So I will be sharing a few tips and just personal knowledge that I have with working with trauma survivors and what could possibly be some things that could help the healing process. So number one, obviously, the Magic of Psalm is a great resource for trauma survivors. We are, updating our website as we speak. So soon we will have an array of resources that anyone can access. Right now, we're in the process of doing that, so you will be getting those shortly. So obviously, we are a resource, number one. If you do have any questions or if you need more personal resources, you can reach out to us by hitting the contact button on our website, and one of us will reach out to you with more resources. But so we're a resource in itself, and we're looking to expand and be definitely a great magical source that will be there to help people with the healing process. So I wanted to kind of share something personal with you guys. So when I'm an educator, and I've been in education for about 10 years. And when I started in education, I wasn't as knowledgeable, as trained. I didn't know as much as I do now. Obviously, with experience and the education level that I have now, I'm able to deal with these situations as they come. But when I first started in the education world and I worked with students, I met a particular student. She was a female student, very quiet, very nice girl. I knew her mom. Her mom was awesome, a Latina mother that was just actually very supportive, very involved. Little by little, this student, she was just drawn to me. So she would come to me when she needed any support or when she needed anything, pretty much. So I was kind of like her counselor, but wasn't officially her counselor, but I was definitely a support system. So she would come see me, and every time she would come, she would have a high level of anxiety. I remember her hands were always clammy. She was always nervous, very shy, no eye contact. I was surprised she would even talk to me because she just wasn't, she was a little socially awkward, a little introverted, but when she needed something, she would reach out to me. So I would always have my office open if she would come and talk. And it started by talking about her grades and academics and, just little things like that. She was in middle school at the time. Little by little, I started noticing more changes with her. She was becoming a little more isolated. She was being absent a lot from school. She was very nervous, just seemed a little depressed. And next thing you know, she started disclosing some things to me, and she ended up sharing with me that she had been molested by her uncle when she was about 3 years old. At this time, when she told me, she was about, I think she was about 13, I'm going to say, at the time. So she let me know that. Obviously, as an educator, I'm a mandated reporter. So I took all the proper steps to get that reported. So I reported to Child Services. I talked to her mother. Mother then disclosed to me that, in fact, it had been a big issue at the time. The mom had found out about this abuse, and the mother had taken it upon herself to report this man to authorities. So on that end, everything was taken care of. But when the student came to me to let me know what had happened, what was happening was that she was unraveling. Her emotions were starting to unravel. It was that PTSD was in full effect at this point, but she didn't know what was happening. Neither did I. So she started, being, like I said, really anxious, sick, etc. Mom took her to the doctor. She sought a therapist. The daughter came back. She brought her doctor's note. At the time, like I said, I wasn't knowledgeable, so it said PTSD. In my mind, at that time, I related PTSD with our amazing vets, right? People that have served for the military. That's what I associated PTSD with. I did not associate it with women or men that have experienced physical, verbal, emotional abuse, and that they now had PTSD. So that for me was like a big revelation. And I know it sounds ridiculous now, because now that I'm educated, I'm like, well, of course. But at that time, and even people that I talk to now, they don't relate PTSD with abuse, with specifically sexual abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse. So what ended up happening were the things that usually happen to people that deal with post-traumatic stress. This student then, she actually started reverting back to becoming that 3-year-old that had gotten abused. So at first I was like, she is faking the funk here. Like, she is being dramatic. This is not real. She literally would talk like a baby. She would almost like just act like a baby. She reverted back to that her 3-year-old self that had been abused. She ended up going to the hospital. She was hospitalized quite often. She was put on a lot of medication. Mom was actually very supportive, so she actually followed through with everything that was recommended to her. But then when she would come back to school, she would have a very hard time managing her stress level, her anxiety, her just depression, everything that she was going through. So I kind of learned with her, because then that's when I discovered, okay, how do I support someone that's been abused and someone that has PTSD? What steps do we take as a school community to help this child? So we started, obviously we referred her to therapy, so she would have on-site therapy at her school. As a community, as a school, obviously we have confidentiality, so I couldn't disclose exactly what had happened to her, but everyone knew that there was something challenging in her life that had occurred, and how could we support. So we would do what we could to support her by checking in with her, by making sure that she was involved in sports. She was actually an amazing soccer player, so we made sure that she kept up her grades, that she qualified for the soccer team. She also joined a couple clubs, became a little more social with the students at her school, and did that. But obviously with that also came some hardship. She also got involved with drug use. She became addicted to different drugs such as meth that derailed her. After we had done a lot of support, we had offered a lot of support, she actually reverted to a lot of hardcore drugs. So that was another challenge that we dealt with. Then we had to support her with the addictions. So then we went there. Then we got her into a program to help her get into rehab. We got her into actually an outpatient rehab, and she did that, followed through with that, helped with that. So anyway, there was just a lot of things that her, as a person that had been abused and was a trauma survivor, had to endure, and she had to go through because of the abuse that she endured. She had to go through, and now I'm happy to say that she's an adult. She's graduated high school. She is doing actually very well. She's been able to manage her stress and anxiety in different ways. Her mom just called me a couple weeks ago and said she's in college now. She's still into sports. She actually has a girlfriend. She's doing really, really well. But I just wanted to share that story because it's people that are around us that maybe you can't pinpoint what may be going on with them, but if you do dig a little deeper, you will find out that if they do have some type of trauma and you do offer the supports to them, the healing is real. It could happen, and it will happen. So I wanted to offer some tips. Just in that little story, we saw someone that started experiencing her emotions and really feeling what was going on. And there was this big explosion of where no one knew exactly what was going on. Her anxiety rose. She was clammy. She was depressed. We saw her grades going down. Her attendance was bad. She became socially awkward. She had all these things. All these things started happening that then brought it to light. Okay, there was trauma. How do we start healing this trauma? And yes, there was negative things that happened. Like I said, drug use, hardcore depression. She couldn't get up from her bed at times, etc. But due to her awesome support system, which was in that case her mom, I'm going to say us, the educators that were around her. She had some siblings. We provided all that we could to assure her success. And those are some tips that I want to share now. If you are a trauma survivor, if you are someone that has had trauma, and also trauma is also a big word. We think trauma like something extreme has to happen to you. You know, maybe people associate trauma with a great big accident that you had and now you have brain trauma or something like that, or you know, you had to be raped in a gruesome manner and then that's trauma. Actually, no, trauma could happen to anyone at any time, and it could be whatever experience you or anyone else has endured that has caused negative reaction to your emotions. That's trauma. If it's something that affected you in a negative manner and it has traumatized you, it's trauma. So don't ever underestimate it and say, oh, well, something worse happened to my friend, so you know, I'm not a trauma survivor, or I don't have anything to deal with. That's false. And I used to think that way because I would say, well, nothing super terrible has happened to me. I mean, now that I see it, I see what my traumas have been, but I would compare them to other women that have had worse traumas. But that's false, because if you have encountered a negative experience that has affected your livelihood, that's trauma. We need to heal from that. So there's some very quick things that you could do on a daily basis that could start the healing process. And sometimes they sound too simple to be real, because sometimes we think, oh, well, we need, you know, massive amount of medication, or we need the most expensive therapist there is, or things of that sort, when in reality, the healing process starts within ourselves. And I know that sounds like that might not work, because I was that person too. I would always say, well, meditation's not going to work for me, yoga's not going to work for me, talking to a therapist isn't going to work for me, talking to a counselor is not going to work for me, talking to my friends isn't going to work for me. But in reality, those are the things that actually have helped me with the things I've experienced. And I'm a person that's experienced anxiety. And actually, to be very transparent and vulnerable with you, I experienced it just in the past couple of weeks. I get driving anxiety, and it really alters the way I live, because I avoid driving, and I have to see like where that's coming from, and I have to see where my nerves are coming from, and I have to kind of put that together. And I've seen some traumas that I've had, you know, like that do affect me with my nerves, and I have to then settle down and say, I need to ease my mind. I had to understand how my brain works, what's going to trigger it, what's not going to trigger it, how am I going to put myself out of the situation. So with some trauma survivors, those simple things can help. When you say, you know what, you can heal, the brain does change. So your worry, your anger, your fear, your struggles, they can be eased because it's in our mind. So here's some tips that could actually work. The first tip would be use your support system that you have naturally around you. You know, use your friends, use your family, use your coworkers that you're comfortable with or friends with, and talk to them. You know, obviously we're not going to expose all of our information all at once, but if you start by talking and getting it out there, you will see how people are actually really relatable, and how many people have actually endured and encountered the same experiences or traumas you have. And just with talking to people can start the healing process. So just use your natural resources that you have around. Like the student that I told you about, she actually used me. Like she's actually felt comfortable with me and put it out there and explained to me, you know, hey, miss, I was abused by my uncle at 3 years old. And I think that was the start of her healing process, even though in the beginning it was very challenging. But now I can say she's a successful young woman that was able to overcome all the negativity that came from her trauma. So use your support system around you, your friends, your family, your coworkers, anyone that you feel comfortable talking to. Number 2 is actually learning about trauma and learning about PTSD, post-traumatic stress, right? Learning what you have. If you've been abused in any manner, whether it be verbal, physical, emotional, whether you were in a car wreck, whether you have anxiety, whether you were overweight, whether your family member is incarcerated, whatever that is, learn about how that has pretty much impacted your life, and learn about how your brain reacts to that and how your health has been impacted by that. And learn about post-traumatic stress. How have I been impacted by a certain circumstance or experience, and how can I get out of it? How does my body work to be able to get out of these feelings, emotions that I'm having? Number three, which I also always disclose to my students, and actually to a lot of the parents that I work with, is using a therapist. In the Latino community, sometimes it's been a stigma that when you go see a therapist, that you're extremely crazy, you don't need that, why are you talking to a therapist? That doesn't help. If you do go talk to them, there's something really weird and crazy with you. But I always tell the parents I work with and the students, like, I have a therapist that I absolutely love, that I see monthly, which I would love to see more of, but due to time and distance, I only see once a month. But I love having her as a resource because she's a neutral person that's able to give me feedback. And not even so much feedback, but listen to me and able to help me process my emotions and anything that I may be going through. So if you are a trauma survivor, I know sometimes you feel alone, you deal with it on your own, and you might resort to things such as addictions. I know that alcohol, drugs, other addictions might come into play to soothe what you may be going through. But it's important to know that you need to seek professional help. And a therapist is a great resource. And if you are low income, or you think, hey, I can't afford such a thing because, some therapists could be a bit expensive, there's a lot of therapists that do pro bono work. There's a lot of sliding scale therapists that will work with your income. If you are low income, there's actually a free therapist. If you have children that need therapists, there's actually a lot of agencies that help with providing free therapists for your child, that will actually go to the school and meet with them, go to your home and meet with them, wherever they can meet, and they will see your student and service them and help them process their trauma. So it's really important, seeking professional help such as a therapist. And even your doctor. When I've experienced anxiety, just like I had a couple weeks ago, I did actually go to my doctor and I said, this is what's going on. I actually don't want meds, but I just wanted to tell you, just telling her made me feel better. And she even reassured me. She's like, there's actually nothing wrong with you with your health, so it does sound like you can actually treat this on your own by meditating, doing yoga, etc. So, but seeking out help from your doctor it's recommended. And then relaxation methods, just like I said now, things that can help ease your mind, because a lot of the things that come to trauma survivors are things such as anxiety, depression, stress, fear, anger, a lot of emotion-related stressors. So if you learn how to deal with them with doing things such as meditating, sitting still, going on a walk, going on a hike, doing something to relax your body is really important. We forget that our body maintains all of the negative energy. So we need to find ways to release that negative energy and be able to move on from it. So find the relaxation method that will work for you. A lot of people don't want to meditate, or they don't want to do yoga. That's fine. Maybe find a dance class you like, or maybe journal, or, watch your favorite show, like something that distracts your mind from thinking about that experience. So being able to say, if you start thinking about that experience or that trauma, reverting your mind to something positive, something else. So I know we overuse yoga and meditation and all that stuff, but I mean, they actually do work. But if you're easing into a relaxation method, find something that you like. It could maybe just, today I was talking to a coworker and she said, I'm going to go exercise. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And she's like, I'm going to go walk around, and it's cold, so I'm going to go walk inside the mall, which was great. I thought, I was like, that's good. She's finding alternatives that will work for her, that will ease her mind, because she's actually going through a lot of stresses at the moment. And she, she's like, go to the stairs, walk around for like an hour. Whatever works for you works for you. So do that, relaxation methods. And another point would be, get creative. Do something that you find passion in. Find your creativity. What really excites you? What brings you passion? If it's singing, if it's, a lot of the women that I'm working with here on Magic of Psalm are singers, and they're amazing. So I'm sure that what they do to relieve their stress is sing, whether they be at home or at work or wherever they are, they sing and they love that. And I think that brings healing to you, to your body, to your mind, to your soul. So find something creative that you like doing. Sometimes I'll color, I have some coloring books, and if I feel a little anxious, I'll color for a little bit, and that suits me. Right now, I actually started a gratitude journal, and I'm not a big writing fan, but I found that if I just write a couple words at the end of my day that say I'm thankful for, and just list them, it brings me some peace of mind and reminds me of the blessings that I do have, as opposed to thinking about the negative factors that may be affecting my well-being. So just be creative, find what brings you passion, what eases your mind from all the other stressors that you may be encountering. So those are some things, and just really believing that you could get through this. It's a healing process. And yes, you're gonna hit rock bottom, just like my student did, right? When she disclosed to me about her abusive uncle. We found a support, then she hit rock bottom. She went into drugs and addiction and alcohol, but she got out of that again. And she was able to find things to support her and to help her and get out of that mindset. And like I said, now she's a successful woman that can now say, yes, I was abused. I was traumatized. I relived my trauma from 3 to 13. It came out at 13. I sought my support system. I tried different things. I also tried negative things, such as her addictions. She's like, but I was resilient and I was able to get out of this. So if my students can do this, then anyone could do this. And I think that's part of why I'm involved in this project, because unfortunately, I do encounter a lot of students that do have PTSD due to sexual abuse. And it's very disheartening and it's very sad. So that's part of my mission here. I want to be more preventative as opposed to reactive when the truth comes out that something like this has happened to one of my students or someone that I know. So using preventative measures and start teaching our students, both boys and girls, about appropriate boundaries and sexual education and things like that, so we don't have the need to provide healing for PTSD, because we will be preventing it. So that's the hope. That's there. So that's the mission that we have here on Magic of Psalm, is helping our fellow trauma survivors, helping each other with the healing process, whether your trauma has been small, big, whatever you may think of it, but finding the support system that is there to help you and helping you with the healing process. That's really important. So that's our mission here. So to move this project along, we do need support from our community financially, just to keep this project moving along. So my lovely moderator here, which is Jen, she has posted the PayPal account, and if your heart desires, you can donate to the cause. We are also going to be doing a podcast where we're going to invite many different people that can be interviewed, and that we can talk to, and we can share our stories, and it could be a movement to help all the people that may be experiencing trauma. And one of the last things that I want to say is that a lot of trauma survivors go through this alone, because they're embarrassed to either say that they've had trauma, that they've been abused, that something has happened to them, so they don't talk about it. So they then experience these negative reactions, such as anxiety, such as whatever it may be, depression, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, whatever, and they're alone and they don't say anything. So we want to push, even if it's people around you that, you know, you may think that they have endured a hardship, you know, be able to talk to them and be able to provide support to them, because that's when you're alone, that's when you get involved in negative things, and then you also, your relationships become affected, you're unable to connect with others, you're emotionally challenged. All these things happen, and these people go through these things alone. So we want to build a community that's able to support each other, able to come with some resources, come with just an open ear, just to provide this to these women and men that have endured these traumas in their lives. So it could be as simple as talking to, you know, your girlfriend about it, and then she discloses something, and then you would be able to give her resources on how to deal with her emotions. We don't want people dealing with this by ourselves, you know, by themselves. You know, I did this workshop with a group of about 25 women, and a lot of them disclosed a lot of their traumas, and it was just even healing just to see the amount of support and the amount of very, very similar stories that many of us had, and many of and it felt good to be able to share stories within each other and support each other and heal each other through that process. So just being there for each other. You don't have to be a therapist. You don't have to be a trained mental health practitioner to be able to support someone in your community or your family with these issues. And, you know, we all know someone, unfortunately, that has encountered these things. So just being there with them and listening to them and being just being a friend and being an open ear is just helpful within itself. So anyway, that's it for today. Those were I just wanted to talk about trauma survivors and just some tips. There's also a lot of things you could find on the web, on the internet, that you can actually find in your community. But like I said, the Magic of Psalm is a readily available resource for you that you can log on at any time. Right now, we don't have all of our resources up yet, but we will have them soon. And you can also email us for future information. So thank you. And like I said, we are going to have a podcast that is launching in February, so look for that. And hopefully we will see you guys tomorrow for day 16 of our 30 Facebook Lives. So thank you, and have a magical night, everyone.